All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission for Monday, February 1st, 2021. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Sure will. Okay, Chair Cerna.
Here.
Commissioner Sneeringer is out today. Voting in her place is going to be Commissioner Hassett.
Here.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
Commissioner Casirier is out today. So in her spot for voting would be Commissioner Cosick.
Here.
Is she here?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Wagstaff.
Here.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Here.
Okay, Commissioner Kennedy. Don't see him on here. That's here. Commissioner Turner Johnson.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Kathy. Commissioner Porter.
Here.
And Commissioner Moak.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and read my replay statement. This meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.net. Today's meeting will be repeated Sunday, February 7th at 2 p.m. and Wednesday, February 10th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14.
Okay, very good. If you would please rise where you're at and find a flag, we're going to recite the pledge.
There's a flag for you.
Oh, terrific, thank you. All right, hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, very good. I'd like to welcome all of our commissioners and staff to the first virtual meeting of 2021. And with that, I think we'll move on to our calendar today. We have a fairly full agenda. So Madam Clerk, our first item, please.
Sure. Item number 1, approval of December 7th, 2020 draft action summary.
Okay, any members of the commission wish to make any changes? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
Move approval.
Been moved by Commissioner Wagstaff,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Cosick. Madam Clerk, will you please do a roll call vote?
I will. Chair Cerna.
Aye.
So Commissioner Hassett,
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
Commissioner Cosick,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Very good. Thank you. Now we'll move on to public comments on off-agenda items. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on off-agenda matters?
We do not have anybody signed up to speak on non-agenda items.
Right. Then we'll move on to the Executive Director's report.
Fantastic. So a couple of items that I wanted to highlight from the Executive Director's report. The governor's proposed budget plan. It looks pretty good for kids. He's addressed some of the pressing needs for young children and their families, especially during the pandemic, as well as kind of looking forward to a more robust early learning, early childhood, not only early learning, but an early childhood system in the future. His proposal calls for about 500 million in new investment for early learning, and it maintains those cannabis funds that he directed toward childcare spaces, about 4,500 childcare spaces to be paid for with cannabis funds. It also includes $55 million to support childcare providers and families. Basically the numbers for the childcare, those numbers and all of that does not even include the $1 billion that the state pulled in from the federal CARES Act money that's specifically directed to childcare. So we're hoping for some good things in childcare specifically for the next year. Other statewide news, the governor appointed Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris as the new chair of the First Five California Commission. And she jumped in last week with her first meeting, and she's already begun to frame the approach for the commission. She's focusing on equity. She's focusing on systems work, multi-generational approaches, and then that connection of health, social services, and early learning systems in improving outcomes for children and families. So she absolutely speaks our language. It's like she gets us from the start. So we're really happy to have her on board. I wanted to add a little bit more about our COVID-19 vaccine work group. As you know, First Five staff are a part of the association's COVID-19 vaccine work group, and they're creating outreach plans and messaging for the community, including some specific messages for parents with young children. And they've taken the California Department of Public Health's Vaccinate All 58 toolkit, and they begin to customize that toolkit for use within our First Five network. And then so that's kind of at the statewide level, but then locally, First Five staff are also working with Sacramento County Public Health Department on the development of local vaccine messaging for children, for families with young children. And I did just get an update on Friday from the Public Health Department. I thought you guys might want some more current data on how the vaccine rollout is shaping up. So the Public Health Department believes that they're going to be wrapping up phase 1 very soon, like this week, and moving to phase 1. Well, that was 1A, phase 1B now. And that's the phase that includes like those large groups like educators and childcare providers and the 65 plus group. So like they're thinking more than 500,000 people are going to be coming online with phase 1B. And because of that, they are working on opening several large pods, including at Cal Expo and California North State University and Sac State. They've got other partners, including pharmacies and urgent care providers. And kind of First Five's role in this is that we are getting the messaging out to our childcare providers because it's going to be a slower rollout. And so as far as childcare providers, we're kind of giving the messages around older childcare providers and those with the highest level of risk should try for those appointments and be scheduled into those appointments before others at lower risk. So it's ever evolving. I feel like every day we get new information on the vaccine rollout, and many of our parents aren't qualifying yet. So we really have been focusing more on the childcare provider messaging and not quite yet on reaching out to all parents yet. I just wanted to highlight that we're super proud of our continued partnership with the Sacramento Business Journal. last month, Erin's been working so hard with many of you to produce 3 podcasts for local businesses. They highlight the best way to navigate the new work from home model when their employees have young children in the house. Chair Cerna opens the whole series by advocating for the importance of childcare as an essential service. And ensuring that the systems and support are in place for those families, working families, to be able to thrive. We featured both RSE and Safe Credit Union as sort of a small and a large employer. And our experts were Commissioner Donna Sneeringer and our own First 5 staffer, Lindsay Dunkel. The links to the podcast are in your packet, so do give it a listen, and those will run through March. Moving on, I did send out an email to you all about our PPE distribution event on January 23rd. We got some wonderful publicity and some media attention for it, and even more importantly, 300 plus childcare providers got some very much needed PPE, including the infrared thermometers, so they don't have to touch kids, take their temperature. They also received masks and wipes and diapers. Supervisor Cerna, again, was there on site. He's a trooper distributing supplies as the providers drove up in their vehicles. And I don't need to tell you all how the providers have been really struggling with reduced enrollments, keeping their doors open, the added cost of PPE. So just having any of these supplies is so important to them, and they're so appreciative. So we worked with Child Action again, and the funding for this came from First 5 California. We're getting actually quite good at these distribution things. I don't know how many more we'll have. We're working on book distribution next, but it's a wonderful partnership, and we're so pleased to have it in place. So that's what I wanted to highlight in my ED report, but there were a couple of things that came up after I submitted the report that I think are worth mentioning. The first is the flavored tobacco ban. So at our last meeting, we made mention that a new flavored tobacco ban the governor approved was going to go into action on January 1st, unless it received enough signatures to basically referendum it until it can go to the people for vote. And it in fact did get about 1 million signatures, mostly in an effort funded by Big Tobacco. And so with that, it will actually go to a vote of the people on whether or not flavored tobacco should be banned in the state of California. That will happen in November of 2021. So we were clearly in support of this ban, even though we recognized it would mean lower revenue for us, but better health for our state and our communities. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the earned income tax credit. So last week, the association created a new resource page for all of the network and our partners to try to get the word out to parents and caregivers, providers about the earned income tax credit and the young child tax credit. So together, the federal and the state tax credits can put thousands of dollars into the pockets of families. And for the first time ever, undocumented workers are eligible for the state credit. So this is huge. So we've been really working on outreach. We've been using the toolkit. We've been highlighting it on social media and trying to get the word out so that our families are ready to roll when they do their taxes. And finally, super happy to say that Sacramento County Office of Education is set to receive $3 million in funding from an ACEs Aware Network of Care grant. The funds will be used to launch a Sacramento County aware trauma-informed network of care collaborative, and that's a mouthful. But there are partners from 6 really unique sectors like healthcare and social services, early childhood, education, and justice. And we're all signed on to this as collaborative partners in the proposal, and they just found out that they are funded. And it is about a 18-month, I want to say, contract. And Commissioner Gordon might want to add more on this later, but we at First Five are super excited to be a partner in this work, to roll up our sleeves and to get to work on launching this new collaborative, and which really ties in to the trauma-informed work that the Commission is doing. And I'm happy to answer questions, but that concludes my formal report.
All right, very good. Thank you. And welcome, Commissioner Kennedy. Glad we were able to patch you in here. Okay, any questions for our Executive Director on her report? All right, seeing none. Of course.
I've got a quick question.
Oh, okay. Mr. Moak?
Yeah, thank you. Thought I had my hand up, but maybe not. Thanks, Julie, for the report. I just had just about the vaccine, some of the vaccine information that you talked about. I know there's even been, you said things are changing daily. The news that Blue Shield is going to be a pretty significant player, and that the My Turn website campaign and messaging is going to maybe supersede. I guess I just don't know. You mentioned the vaccinate all 58, and I thought I read and heard that My Turn was going to be the one that was actually going to be the messaging platform. So I guess knowing that this has been, really challenging for California, but I guess that gives us the opportunity to get things really, really right and clear, especially for those that are going to have the vaccine hesitancy, our Black and Brown communities. I'm hoping we can really just make sure that we are coming out of the gate clear and strong.
Yeah.
Can I help with that?
Dr. K is here.
I had a suspicion someone would ask. Hi, everyone. I'm glad that I was able to join today. Just to respond to what Scott was asking, we don't have enough detail about the Blue Shield or third-party administrator, as they're calling them, to know how that's going to impact our what we're doing right now. So we're hoping that we'll get some information soon. And the My Turn Now is the platform that will be used for people being able to actually go in and check if they are eligible for the vaccine, and also to be able to go in and register if the county is using that system. Sacramento County has not signed up yet. We did send an email to find out more information about how it works. The state has been piloting it in San Diego and LA. I think that answers your two questions.
Yep. Thank you.
And Commissioner Moak, please tell me you're not actually moving in your vehicle, because it looks like your phone is right in the middle of your steering wheel.
Correct. That's right. I'm parked. I'm good. I'm parked.
All right. Very good. Safety first. Okay. So any other questions or comments for our Executive Director or Dr. Kasiri? If not, of course, I failed to mention at the right time, giving my detailed script that our staff, wonderful staff, put together each time we have our meeting. Of course, I ignored it. So let me go back a little bit and explain commissioner rules as well as public rules for these virtual First Five meetings. First, the commissioner rules. Commissioners will be unmuted upon entering the Zoom meeting, and I ask that you mute yourself until you are called on to speak. Commissioners are encouraged to make comments and ask questions of staff throughout the meeting. Please use your raise hand button under participants when you would like to speak, and I will call you in order. Please lower your raised hand after you have been called on. Commissioners may see some questions pop up in the Q&A section. Please allow staff to answer those questions, as they will primarily be related to making public comment. And as for the public rules, members of the public entering the Zoom meeting will have the ability to signal that they would like to make a comment on any agenda item throughout the meeting. To be placed on the speakers list for any item, please click on the Q&A button and write your name and indicate the agenda item you wish to speak on. Please type into the Q&A at the beginning of the meeting or as soon as you know you would like to comment, so that staff have time to create the speakers list. We will call your name in the order it was received and unmute you when it's your time to speak. The public calling in through the phone line will also have an opportunity to address the commission. If you have something to say when the phone line is unmuted, please state your name, the agenda item you wish to address, and then your comment. Public comment in the Zoom meeting or over the phone is limited to 3 minutes. For commissioners and our public, please unmute yourself when called on to speak, and then mute yourself again when you are done speaking. Thank you, Carmen. All right, glad we got that out of the way. All right, our next item.
Item number 4, advisory committee update.
I can take this one. We did not meet between our last meetings. However, we are scheduled to get together again on Friday, and we will be sharing the resolution on racial equity, and the committee will also be hearing the evaluation presentation that's coming your way later.
Okay. Next item.
Item number 5, evaluation committee update.
Yes, this is Steve Wirtz. We had our meeting scheduled for January 11th, but we moved it to January 14th. And during that meeting, we approved the 2021 calendar and reviewed the upcoming committee's work plan for the timing over the next year, and looked at some special studies, including potentially around the crisis nursery and return on investments, and then spent most of the time preparing and discussing the comments and back and forth over the last month or two around the annual report that you're going to be presented today. So I think that is the summary of the last meeting. And we have our next meeting then is not until March 15th because of planning around the timeline for additional activities that we will need to be reviewing at that point in time. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Questions or any additions? I will say again how valuable the participation of our advisory committee members are. First of all, they always help us make sure that we have thoughtful comments and a quorum and make the committee work really successfully. So I want to again recognize both Robin and Anthony as members of the advisory committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Item number 6, financial planning committee update.
Good afternoon. This is Kathy Kosick. The Financial Planning Committee met on the 21st of January. We were updated on the changes to the county budget process this year. And Julie described how the public will be able to give greater input on the priorities with the budget workshop this February 4th. Staff indicated during the budget process, they'll be deleting a vacant accounting technician position as part of the cuts for the 2021 strategic plan. As Julie has reported in her written report, we were updated on the first 5 office lease that is expiring in August of this year, and staff are actively negotiating the current space as well as looking at other spaces where there is an anticipated cost reduction of 30 to 40% if possible. And we will get additional updates as they continue the process. The financial statements through December 31st were reviewed, and all expenditures are trending within the approved budget, with a few exceptions that were reasonably justified. Staff concluded by updating the committee on Prop 10 funding, and monthly receipts for the current fiscal year are up by about $600,000 compared to the prior year at this time. And Julie, as she has mentioned previously, talked about the tobacco product ban and the additional voter approval that will be needed on that item. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Cossack. Any questions? Seeing none, our next item, please.
Item number 7, Sustainability Committee update.
Yes, this is Commissioner Hardy, and I'm going to report out on our special meeting, which was on January 15th. This came out of our November meeting. There were 2 items that we discussed on January 15th. One was the renaming of the committee based on the work that has been done. When the committee first was established, it was really focused around sustainability, but over the last couple of years, we have really gone beyond that and really looked at system change and along with sustainability. So we thought there was a need to capture that in the name of the committee. And so the committee voted to change the name to Systems Optimization and Sustainability to capture all the work that actually is done on the committee and not just sustainability. The second item you guys will be reviewing, the commissioners will be reviewing, it's item number 8, and that was to review and discuss and get feedback on a resolution on racial equity and social justice. It was a very robust discussion. It was a great discussion, in my opinion, on this resolution. And I will say even at times, maybe a little uncomfortable discussion, but it was very good. And that is going to be before you in item number 8. Our next commission meeting, Sustainability Committee meeting, is February 19th at 10 o'clock.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Hardy? All right, seeing none, next item, please.
Item number 8, approval of the first 5 Sacramento resolution on racial equity and social justice. Give me just a minute while I wait for Julie.
Okay, everyone. So I am super excited to bring this item to commission members. Staff worked closely with Chair Cerna, with the SOS committee and the advisory committee to bring you the draft resolution on racial equity and social justice. This document is our first step in the Commission's efforts to center racial equity, diversity, and inclusion into our work. And it's our pledge to actively and intentionally engage in work to dismantle racism, both within and outside the First Five Network. So we shortly will show you a couple PowerPoint slides, but staff heard back from a couple of commissioners after we sent it out with, given props for doing this hard work, and also with some suggestions and some wordsmithing of a couple of items. So staff kind of went through all of those and updated the resolution from what you have in your packet. These were just minor tweaks to a couple of the bulleted items. And so we wanted to let you see those today and to let you know that we hope there's discussion and we can continue to make some small tweaks to it today during our meeting. And then once we all come to an agreement, we would then route the final version to you all for signature. So we'll have Stephanie pull it up so you all can see the couple minor little wordsmithing tweaks that we made. And you might have to adjust your screens a little to see because it's
Good.
there you go. Thank you. So, and as Commissioner Wirtz thanked his evaluation team, I really did need to thank our newly named SOS committee, Systems Optimization and Sustainability Committee. The 5 members on that team really provided us with so much good feedback and language content. So I didn't necessarily plan to read it, each and every one. I'm assuming that you all did that. I did just want to pop through the 4 slides just so you could see where we made some minor modifications, and then just open it up for you all to talk about. So we added on this first slide the developmental and behavioral changes to this sentence because there are large racially based disparities in all of those areas. And then next slide, if you would, Steph. We added the little language about they experience severe and or prolonged adversity. And then you may have to scroll a tiny bit, Steph, so we can get that last whereas here all the way.
I'm not sure I can scroll I can't scroll. It'll just take me to the next one.
Okay, I think you can pretty much see it, but it changes to First 5 Sacramento recognizes that its practices are not exempt from the influences of historical systemic racism. We acknowledge this and are committed to developing the capacity to practice and embed anti-racist policies and approaches across our work, internally and externally with our funded partners. So just a little change here and there. And then is that all of them, Steph, or do we have anything on the next page?
I think that was all of them.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. So I didn't know, Chair Cerna, how you wanted to handle this one, or if you would like the committee to jump in, or however you want to proceed.
Sure. So I noticed that you've incorporated some of the suggested language that you and I discussed last week. So thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just as a matter of process for today's discussion, if committee members want to chime in and perhaps share some of the thought processes behind this language, feel free. But I think it's a very thoughtful resolution. I think it's pretty comprehensive. I think there's as Commissioner Hardy pointed out earlier, I think this is a product of perhaps some tough discussion, and that's fine. It should be a product of both the passion and the concern that I think we all share for this complex subject called racism. So with that, I don't have much more to share other than I think it represents some great work, and again, thinking on behalf of our commissioners. So I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in, but now would be the time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You have 2 hands, right?
I had just a question. I wanted to, first of all, thank the staff for putting this together. Very important document. Julie, just a question. In the action steps that you have listed, which I think are all good, you talk about staff trainings, you talk about internships and things like that, which are all very important. Will it require us to revise our budget to do those things? Are these additional activities that we will have to modify our budget to make sure we follow through on?
That's a really great question, and I was going to address that in my wrap-up situation, but I can jump into it right now. So we, this commission did approve $100,000 per year in our systems improvement line item. And our anti-racism work is definitely one of the things that is part of that work plan, our systems improvement work plan. So we do have, a small chunk of change to enact some of these things. And it is, I think we're going to have to wait and see how it goes as we get into it, because we're going to utilize the SOS committee to help us prioritize. So there are 9 things under the therefore, these 9 things that we want to implement and work on. And I think we need to prioritize them. So in the same way that we created this really amazing sustainability plan about 3 years ago, we didn't quite know how we were going to fund it. We didn't quite know how we were going to find staff time to do it, but we kind of learned as we went along. And we did have some money to implement some of that sustainability work. And so we do have some money, and we do have a little bit of staff time. And we're going to use the committee to help us prioritize and figure out which of the things we can do like right now, which of them we need to plan around for. I think if we want to do an internship, we want it to be sort of like at least a partial paid internship. So we can, value people and their time and have them come to meetings and be a part of our First Five world. So, but we might need some policy language around that. So it's kind of a long answer to say, I think we'll know more as we jump in and we figure out what we're going to do first, second, third, fourth. But I'm not anticipating right off the bat coming back in 6 months and saying, now we need $200,000 or anything like that. I think we're going to work within what our allocation is to see what we can accomplish in this first year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Wirtz?
Thank you, Commissioner Cerna. I also, Julie and staff, I appreciate the minor changes that that you incorporated that I had mentioned, and then the larger issue that we had discussed separately that I wanted to just bring back and have a broader discussion around is really around racial justice and racial and equity and social justice. Obviously, African American communities, indigenous people have been a central part of this disparities and discrimination and racism. However, in addition, the Latinx community, particularly Mexican, Central American, and Chinese in terms of labor and discrimination and immigration issues, have all faced the same historical, or not the same, excuse me, and faced different forms of discrimination and racism throughout the history, from the camps to the Exclusion Act and so on. So there's a clear historical basis for those as well. I do recognize why we're highlighting and focusing on African American and indigenous populations, and so I'm not trying to do anything to that highlighting. However, I'm just a little concerned that the language does not recognize these other communities, let alone, well, because we're talking about racism, but they don't not fully recognize the reality of the historical exclusion and activities around these other populations. And so I was hoping there was some language that could acknowledge that, as then it's saying, and in particular, we're focusing on these populations. So that was the issue. I'm just worried by not having any language around it, that we are sort of isolating our majority population of youth who are Latinx in California now, and continually face, because of immigration policies, federal as well as other issues around incarceration and so on, that if we don't mention those, we're leaving a gap there. So again, I'm not trying to say that we should not highlight in particular the incredible work that this commission has done through its partners, but I'm just hoping that we would discuss whether there's a way to acknowledge that the racism and discrimination and disparities goes beyond those groups, even if we're focusing on those. So that was my concern, and wanted to at least see if there was similar concerns about including language that might reflect that in some fashion.
Okay. Any others? I don't see any hands raised.
I guess I can say, Commissioner Wirtz, we kind of did discuss that at the committee level, and we did have a pretty deep discussion about it. And in the end, when we really looked at the disparity, the African American and Indigenous people, those disparities were so much greater in most cases than all others, that we really felt it was kind of justified to say, we understand racism happens in all of these communities, and we're not trying to downplay that, but that our efforts here, we just wanted to highlight and call out these two populations specifically. Yeah.
I can speak to my thoughts on the subject in the SOS committee. This is Eric Fernandez Garcia. So we did, as Julie says, we had a long conversation about that. And I understand where you're coming from. But the difficulty in addressing racism and working in anti-racist circles and in discrimination is that when in attempting to be egalitarian and talk about all the potential discrimination that can happen, and using, very broad terms like people of color or disadvantaged people, it's a slippery slope to lose the focus on the people who have had, for us, what we're talking about, people of African American and Indigenous ancestry who have been marginalized and whose disparities are disproportionately large. It's easy to lose the focus on that when you expand
Not to mention
everybody. What was that?
But not to mention enslaved.
Yeah. So, I think that it makes it difficult to keep the focus on if you don't keep the focus on it. So, when we're talking about redressing these issues and tackling them, it always makes sense to me to start with those who are facing the most disadvantage historically and currently, and do that first, right? We can always recalibrate. I think, this is likely a living document, and it can change once, we've put things in place. So when we had the discussion, I think that's where we landed, in that let's start with keeping the focus very squarely on the communities that we really want to lift up at this particular moment in history with this particular document, knowing that we can evolve and will evolve. And I say this, as a pediatrician, as a Central American myself, or a person from Central American ancestry, acknowledging my community is, shares disadvantage and shares experience of discrimination. But I do, with that background, do see the particular need to focus on my Black and Indigenous neighbors, friends, and family.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, hold on, Bruce. We have Dr. K, and then we have Beth, and then Bruce. Dr. K?
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I'd like to also add to what Julie said, is that I think where the conversation actually started was looking at health disparities. And I think there's no argument there that the two groups that were selected have the greatest disparities when you're looking at health. And that's not to say that the others are not important, but as was mentioned again, this is a place for us to start. It doesn't mean that at some point we can't reevaluate and decide if we want to add the others or not. But I agree with the way that it's written right now. I think this is where we need to start in terms of looking at making some changes, especially trying to impact the health disparities and reduce them.
Thank you. Commissioner Hassett.
Yeah, I just want to echo that's exactly the thought process we used at Weave, especially with the work that we're doing down in South Sac with the Black community. And, you know, feeling that if we center it on the Black community, then we're going to touch everybody else and we'll get to the other folks. But really felt it was important to not muddy the waters and to keep our focus really on that racism that has permeated our country. So my vote is to keep it that focused.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagstaff.
Yes, thank you. I think these have been excellent points. I want to thank my colleagues for just one suggestion, perhaps, on the whereas where we're addressing this issue. Would it be okay to modify the language slightly to say, first five will intentionally focus our initial equity efforts on African American Indigenous people, and will work to then address issues affecting other persons of color, something to that effect, so that we're clear that it's our initial focus, but that we're not, for the reasons that others have mentioned, but that we're not ignoring that there's more work to do down the road.
All right, Commissioner Wirtz.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagstaff. That's the direction I was trying to aim at. I certainly understand the very thoughtful and hard-fought agreement that you've come to. I want to point out a couple things. I sent out a recent study to Julie that documents that the life expectancy gains for the Latinx community that they've gained over the last 30 years have all been lost in the COVID-19 pandemic. Namely, they have lost something on the order of five years of life expectancy compared to whites losing about 1 year and blacks losing about 2. And so I just point out that the evidence for the impact, the disproportionate and discriminatory impact of COVID and the structural and historical context in which power is exercised has profoundly affected the Latinx community. Secondly, I will just point out that in Sacramento, we have an extraordinary problem with the immigration population and the ICE involvement in our incarceration situation, with Sheriff Jones inappropriately focusing against what I would consider against the law to discriminate against Latinx civil incarcerations around ICE. So I would say that we're facing some realities in Sacramento today, every day, and I'm hearing, obviously, my family works closely with immigrant populations and who are struck with the ICE involvement. So I just want to make the case that the reality is that discrimination continues in these communities just profoundly as well. However, I thought Commissioner Wagstaff's notion of just putting something in there, even if it just said initially focusing, that would be sufficient. I mean, if that's the easiest way to not try to disrupt the profound thinking that you have already done to get the language and keep the focus where you want it, I certainly agree with that focus. My only point was, if we don't recognize that the rest of this needs to be addressed at some point, I think we do ourselves a disservice. So just to make those points.
Okay.
Just one other thing, Julie, I'm not sure if you sent out, but you might send out the life expectancy article. I think it's just I don't know if you have, but I think it's profoundly sad to see what's happening, that all of the work that we've made incrementally over the last decades is being wiped out by the disproportionality of how COVID is affecting us. It's just horrible.
Yeah, I haven't yet, and I will do that as a follow-up to this meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Just to play a little devil's advocate here, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I will. Does anyone else fear that if you put initially in there, it actually makes it seem a little more exclusive? And in other words, does it kind of suggest that we can't simultaneously prioritize those that we know, various populations, not just African American population or indigenous people's population, but it almost makes it sound like we're going to compartmentalize our focus and not simultaneously try and be, a broad tent to include everyone. And I know that sounds weird. It kind of runs contrary to some of the concerns that have been expressed by those that are suggesting the language change, but that's kind of the way it feels to me. I don't know if anyone else kind of takes it that way.
I can see that. I see what you're saying with that. And then looking at the document, I think where we, in our whereas, where we point out racism suffered by African American and indigenous people, what we're trying to do is just highlight those two groups. And when we say, therefore be it resolved, we talk about addressing racial inequities, in particular African American and indigenous children and families. So when we were constructing this, if I'm recalling correctly, that is the construction that we used. We said we're using, one of these whereases to point out that there are two groups who are particularly affected, and that we're resolving to implement anti-racist policies in particular for those groups, but not exclusive to those groups. So perhaps we need to be more clear in that, and not use a time limited term like initially, but maybe something like that, like not exclusive to, or I don't know, something that addresses all of the issues that have been brought up and still keeps the essence of what we've created so far.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with that. I think it does. It almost sounds like you can't address racial inequities. You have to address them by group. And I don't believe that you have to necessarily address them by group. I think when you address them, they address all groups who have been discriminated against. There was a lot of discussion about the focus and the appreciation that has been pointed out of many, many groups being discriminated against in our country. The difference and the reason we focused on this that has been pointed out, not only the disparities, but it's the hundreds of years, the foundation of this country that has caused the disparities in these two groups in particular. And so the focus has been on those two, not recognizing that there's discrimination amongst many, many other groups in our country, unfortunately. So if there's a way to not, in my words, water down the distinction of the hundreds and hundreds of years of discrimination for those two groups, I'm for that, recognizing that, yes, there is discrimination among many others. And when we address racial discrimination and inequities, it should benefit all groups. not just these, but we are going after these two in recognition of the hundreds of years of discrimination and inequity.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Wagstaff.
Yes, some really good suggestions here, I think, Mr. Chairman. I would just say that if you wanted to pull over the language in particular over until that whereas, I'm just very concerned, notwithstanding what Terry just said, which is very hits home. I understand that point completely, but I'm afraid that the current language of the fourth whereas, without at least the word in particular, Mr. Chairman, could, I think, send the kind of message that you raised even more strongly. You know, if we don't offer something there that indicates, we could even add what Terry just said in terms of the hundreds of years if the group thought that was appropriate. But I think if we at least, you've got the in particular over there in the now therefore be resolved paragraph. Perhaps we could just take that over and put it in the whereas paragraph as well. Because I think without something, I think it's problematic.
Commissioner Cernak?
Yes.
I'm sorry, if I'm not sure if others have their hands up, but I had my hand up to just follow up with a possible solution. And I want to make it clear that none of my comments are trying to change the focus that the group has come up with. Please understand that. What I'm suggesting, I think in my mind, and Commissioner Wagstaff, it may not meet your concerns, but if you look at the third whereas to address the persistent local racially based disparities in child and family outcomes among all people of color, by just simply adding those words there. First 5 is committed to intentionally focus on racial disparity or diversity. And then the next one is the racism suffered by these groups. So all I'm suggesting is just the recognition that there are other groups. And I think without changing the context or anything, by adding just those words in the third whereas after family outcomes among communities of color or people of color would meet my feeling to make sure that we were inclusive of understanding the issues.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who?
Lee had her hand up next.
Okay, great. Thank you. Lee, go ahead.
Really simply, listening to everyone and honoring everything that was said so appropriately, I just think if we could mention the intersectionality without going into too much detail, and Terry's comment about, absolutely, I agree with her and with what Commissioner Wagstaff said about just saying that. Just say the hundreds of years, you know. I'm not looking at the document, so I'm not trying to do the edit for you or for any of us, but I just think we can be simple. What seems to be is that if we get into what some of the original comments were, it's kind of like we commit in this document, and it does in a way dilute, it seems to me, you know, either in an introductory, which I know wouldn't therefore be in the actual document, stating that, well, there's this awareness, of course, of intersectionality that's still in this country with the hundreds of years of these particular groups being more accentuated in this level of disservice. So I just think really compacting those words to it, noting the intersectionality in a way that, in my mind, doesn't commit beyond what this document very pointedly says, and absolutely including Terry's comment about the hundreds of years of this history in this country that we are building this particular place in. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Fernandez-Garcia.
I think we're bringing up good points. I'm not sure if we're going to solve it now. It seems like we need to really do some writing, some thinking, and word crafting. For example, the term people of color, not all people of color have disproportionate outcomes, right? That is there's very exactness to the words in this kind of debate that we need to think about really carefully. And this could easily become something where we have to check who exactly has which outcome and how disparate is it, and what are the factors that affect it, and write a list. I don't think we need to go that route, but it can easily become that. So I just think we need to take maybe a little bit more time and figure out this outside of this meeting, perhaps. I'm not sure, but I'm not comfortable determining things at this moment.
Commissioner Gordon.
I'll just share that I thought that the phrasing in the fourth whereas was very, very carefully and to me very important in connecting the racism suffered by African Americans and indigenous people to both the origins of our nation and how many years had gone by since then and since the treatment of indigenous people. So that spoke to me, and I think Supervisor Cerner, I think this is getting to what you were talking about. That made a very powerful statement to me. And when I read the rest of the document, when I got to the therefore be it resolved clause, the inclusion of the in particular for me really did bring in other groups, and it seemed to complete for me the notion that this was highlighting those groups, but not to the exclusion of everybody else. So I was just to say I was comfortable with the way it was written.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner Johnson, did you have something else to contribute?
No, I lowered my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay, Commissioner Wirtz.
Yeah, sorry. Again, I again want to confirm that the focus of this is perfect from my perspective as a white privileged male. So I'm not speaking to that. I think all of the in particulars and so on were appropriate. I appreciate Commissioner Gordon your final pointing out of that in particular in the now therefore. I wanted to raise these issues, but I think it's more important that we act. And I know this is, as resolutions are minimal, I suppose they're actions, but they're minimal. I think if the other commissioners are fine with this discussion and feel like this language that has been worked out in very good detail was sufficiently reflective of the overall consensus, then I would, rather than put this off, I would certainly go along with that understanding, specifically with the now therefore being clarified in some way. So again, if that helps us move forward, I'm not speaking for any other commissioners, but I think I understand the argument, and I think if we understand the other aspects of this as well, I'm comfortable with moving ahead today rather than delaying, given the limited number of meetings we have and the need to take action in between meetings.
Great, thank you. So I think, as someone that has personally been very involved in drafting other similar resolutions last year for the county and for the state Air Resources Board, one of the things I've concluded is that I think you're at a place where a resolution is ripe for adoption when you have spirited debate about language changes, and with every suggested language change, you realize it may open up yet another aspect of it that is, of concern to a group. So I think, again, I want to honor the work of the committee. This was not done without a lot of considerable forethought and time to be careful with the language. I think that's obvious in the resolution. I certainly appreciate the discussion we've had now for about half hour or so. This is it's a good discussion, but I would agree with Commissioner Wirtz. I think we need to act on this today. And again, I just want to honor the work of the committee. So if there's no further discussion, I'd ask for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Wagstaff, and who seconded?
Hassett.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Hassett. Okay, if there's no further discussion, Mr. Heyer.
Because I wasn't sure if there was any public comment on this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Carmen?
We do not have anybody signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, thank you for the reminder, Rick. Appreciate that. Okay, so roll call vote, please.
Okay, Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassett.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon.
Aye.
Commissioner Casirier.
Aye. Sorry, aye.
Commissioner Wagstaff.
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye, I'm supportive.
There you go. Motion passes.
Very good. Thanks again to the committee that worked so hard on this, and to all of you for, I think, what has been an excellent and honest discussion here this afternoon. All right. Next item, please.
Next item, number 9, approval of funding recommendations for programs under the result area of school readiness.
And for this one, Lindsay Dunkel, who is our early learning and care coordinator, will walk you through this recommendation.
Before we go there, do we have any recusals on this?
In fact, we do.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe Commissioner Gordon.
Okay. And how are we handling recusals in the virtual world here?
As in a public meeting in person, we need to just state what the source of the conflict is, and then the commissioner can simply mute their mic and stop the video.
Okay. Mr. Gordon, do you want to make that statement?
Yes, I intend to recuse myself on item 9 and the next item, item 10, as well, because I am involved and engaged with the agencies, with some of the agencies that would benefit from those items.
Sorry to interrupt, but I believe it's also true for Commissioner Gordon for item 11 as well.
Correct.
It is true.
Oh, item 11 as well. Okay. So, okay. Very good.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Gordon.
Fantastic. It looks like Lindsay is working on getting there.
Go. All right. Now we're ready.
Lindsay, your phone's muted, so we can't hear you. Do you want me to unmute you? Hold on.
Actually,
Maybe
her
I can-
computer's muted.
I can't unmute you.
There we go.
She
There you
should
go.
be able to, unmute yourself.
You have to unmute the phone too. And then if you unmute the phone, you might have to mute back your computer because otherwise you're going to get feedback.
The dreaded double mute.
Yes.
It says talking permitted, so I don't know if it's on. We can't hear you.
Yeah, it's not giving us any options to unmute you for you.
Is the volume?
She's calling in to try to talk through her cell phone and then use the computer to have the video, but somehow I think she's got her phone muted through the system.
Can she
And I don't know how the system works.
Can she try, like, I think it's *6 or something like that to unmute your phone?
Try *6.
Oh, *6
on your phone. Oh wait, we lost her on the phone. She hung up.
We can't hear you, Lindsay.
Mm-mm.
How would you like to proceed, Carmen or Julie?
Do we want to go to 10 and come back to 9?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do that?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so item number 10 is approval of funding recommendations for programs under the results of breastfeeding, quality childcare, and emergency childcare and crisis support. And we do have a few recusals on this one as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. White.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, this is the item I have to recuse myself from because of the cross connection with the work that I do for the county.
Correct.
Correct.
As does Dr. Kasirier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I request to recuse myself because of the work I do with the county.
Okay, very good. If you could please both respectfully turn off your video and put yourself on mute. Thanks.
Great. Okay, so we've moved on to item 10. And with this item, if approved today, the Commission will award contracts to partners for the fiscal year 2021 strategic plan 2024. And our specific result areas addressed in this item are for services to increase the frequency and duration of breastfeeding, to improve childcare quality, and to provide emergency childcare and crisis support through 2 crisis nurseries. Each of the proposals recommended for funding in this item were the sole proposals during that competitive bid RFP. However, all of the proposals were still subjected to a 2-step review process by staff. So audits and other organizational financial information were utilized to review the fiscal solvency of each agency. And then staff also reviewed each proposal to ensure that it met the requirements and the intentions of the RFP, and that they were supported the strategies in our implementation plan. And then we did post the funding recommendations to the website, and we did not receive any letters of protest. So there is a synopsis of each of the recommended programs that are being proposed and their services. Those are attachments 1 through 3. And these proposed services were what was included in the proposals. And staff, what we're asking for your approval today is to enter into negotiations with each of the 3 to really finalize the scopes of work and budget. So staff are recommending that the Commission approve these agencies, which would result in an award to Sacramento County Department of Health Services WIC program for a total of $1,431,402 to provide breastfeeding support services. And then also approve an award to Sacramento County Office of Education for $1,965,345 to implement a quality child care program, and an award to Sacramento County Children's Home or Sacramento Children's Home for $2,840,661 to provide emergency child care and crisis support. And these amounts are included in our approved spending plan for the strategic plan for each of the 3 fiscal years. I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the contracts or the process.
All right, any questions for Julie? Carmen, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The first speaker is Lisa Matthews. And I will, let's see, Lisa, give me 1 minute. Okay, Lisa. Please unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Matthews. I'm the Breastfeeding Program Coordinator with the Sacramento County WIC program. I wanted to take a moment to thank the Commission for recognizing the importance of supporting breastfeeding and also the work that you have done to help thousands of mothers and infants receive the breastfeeding support services that were lacking in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker we have signed up is Dr. Natalie Woods Andrews.
Got it, Carmen.
Okay.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you, Chair Cerna and Commissioners. On behalf of the Sacramento County Office of Education, I would like to just extend great appreciation for your ongoing commitment to quality child care. So in addition to the supports for families from which First 5 provides through many of their programs, ensuring that children have access to high quality early learning experiences to support their school readiness and childcare opportunities are so important. They are essential. So this pandemic's impact upon our families has brought into stark relief the essential role childcare plays in the parents' and livelihood and the economy's ability to withstand and recover. And so we are very grateful to be able to have this acknowledgement that quality, stable childcare also provides an essential foundation for children's development. And it also supports children's recovery from the traumatic disruption that we have seen as a result of the pandemic. And so many children do provide, or they do spend a large portion of their time in quality childcare. And so the work that we have been able to do with the programs that have been funded through First 5 Sacramento have made a difference. This has been so important to be able to continue. In addition to the work of the school districts, this opportunity for families to be able to access quality early learning and childcare programs that have been supported through the preschool bridging model that has been administered by SCOE, as well as the Quality Childcare Collaborative that has been administered through QCCC and Child Action, really have been critical components of an infrastructure here in Sacramento County. So this work has enabled us to support providers and then to be able to move them to some additional opportunities that we have been able to receive. These funds, we feel that there has been a large return on investment as we have been able to leverage state level funding to continue and expand this work, notably over $3 million in First 5 California impact funding, but also has positioned us for additional funding. So for this particular funding cycle, SCOE and Child Action partnered together to submit a joint application. And we did this because we just feel that in order to seamlessly provide resources and services in our community, it was important for us to come together to make a greater collective impact. And so we were able to collaborate to ensure that this could happen and that these activities would continue to be seamless. So I just want to thank you for your consideration of the recommendation for awarding these funds. We are very excited about the potential opportunity to move forward in doing this important work and to partner with our colleagues at Child Action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
We have one more speaker. And that speaker is Amelia Schindel. Is she still on the call?
She's down under S.
Got it. Amelia, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay, it worked. It's always nice when technology cooperates. So I'm Amelia Schindel, Sacramento County WIC Program Director. And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your steadfast support throughout the years. You've always stood really high and tall and supported breastfeeding. And I really appreciate the fact that you recognize that breastfeeding is not just nutrition, but it's also provides a strong bonding opportunity for mothers and babies and families. So not just the health benefits that come with breastfeeding for the mother and the baby, but also how we can actually make an impact in postpartum depression, child abuse and neglect, and some of the other areas that often people don't talk about. We talked earlier, we were talking about racial inequities and disparities of health and all that sort of thing. And the beauty of breastfeeding is that all babies are equal at that point when they're born and they're put to breast and they're bonding with their mother. They're all equal. And that's the beauty of breastfeeding. No matter how rich you are, how poor you are, what race you belong to, what ethnicity you belong to, breastfeeding equalizes. And that's the passion that I have for one of the many, many things that breastfeeding does. And the Sacramento County WIC program has become a very trusted program, and in the community, it always has been. But when it comes to breastfeeding, we have so many mothers that come straight to WIC and say, and they've told us, I know I can get help here. And so not just breastfeeding help, but we've become a really valuable safety net in the community, thanks to your support and your belief. And I just want to thank you again very much for all that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. That conclude our public speakers, Carmen?
We have one comment from David Baker, and he would like to, Sacramento Children's Home would like to express our thank you for the ongoing commitment to the commission and their support of the crisis nurseries. Thank you, David Baker, Sacramento Children's Home.
Very good, thank you. Okay, any comments from members of the commission? I'm looking for hands in the, yes, Commissioner Wirtz.
Yeah, just a brief procedural question to Julie. The reason why this didn't go to a review committee was, this is a question, was that because there was no other applications? And that's true for the other one, the school readiness, the WIC and childcare. None of them had a review panel. Is that because there was no competition?
Exactly. So we checked in with county council, and when there was just one, and we were actually so pleased because in the case of breastfeeding and quality childcare, the two agencies under each that had been funded separately before really came together to coordinate a joint application for the funding, which had been reduced, as you all know, and really like thinking as a team to create the best possible programming for our providers and our moms. And so we were super pleased to see that. And with the crisis nursery in particular, we really did want to challenge our assumption that they were the only entity in the county. So we did put out the competitive bid RFP, but in fact, they were the only ones who applied, who had the specific licenses and or could start providing services under those licenses in July 1. And then with the school readiness contracts, those we actually did not necessarily do competitively, and I'll let Lindsay speak to that, but we did a request for application process because we knew how much money we had and the districts that were going to participate. So yes, and we did thoroughly investigate with county council before making the decision not to have review panels.
All right. All right. Any others have questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Been moved by Commissioner Kosick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wirtz. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Chair Hassett, or sorry, Commissioner Hassett.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
He had to step out.
Oh,
So
he's
we
gone.
have-
Okay.
Yes, we have
So
Commissioner
Turner Johnson.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we have some recusals. So Commissioner Evans. You'll get to
Aye.
vote on. Okay. And Commissioner Kosick.
Aye.
Commissioner Porter.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Motion passes.
Very good. Okay. Do we have the audio for item 9 solved?
We are about.
I think we do.
All right. Welcome.
Yay!
You see, it wouldn't be a first 5 Sacramento Zoom commission meeting without some technical difficulties. So I provided that for you. Yeah, my internet is being a little glitchy this afternoon, so I thought it would be smoother. Even if I freeze, at least my words will keep going if I'm on the phone. So good afternoon, commissioners. Your school readiness investment is one of your first investments and longest running. It's really a cornerstone investment for the First 5 Sacramento Commission. And despite the decline in available funding over the years, it represents about a quarter of your program budget in this upcoming funding cycle. So last year, despite the pandemic, we served over 3,800 children with school readiness funding. And I am so proud of our district partners during this incredibly tumultuous time. They've found creative solutions to continue to serve families and children throughout the past year with everything from drive-by supplies pickups, which you've seen some pictures of, Zoom play groups, to virtual family field trips to the Sacramento Zoo. Staff members are dressing up in raccoon costumes to promote daily reading. They're singing their hearts out on Facebook Live. And they are providing playtime, open-ended playtime for small groups of children so they have a chance to engage in social interaction with one another after the more prescribed and structured preschool distance learning day ends. And they are just endlessly making contingency plans for COVID and for reopening, preparing for a time when maybe, just maybe, we will all be in person again. So it's inspiring to hear all that they have managed to do. But today we're here to talk about the coming 3 years. I know you have the commission letter in front of you, and for those of you who like to dig deep into specifics, we've included synopsis sheets for each district with lots and lots of information about what they're proposing to do in terms of programming more specifically. I'm just going to highlight for you sort of the overall picture, as well as what I see as the larger differences when compared to the current funding cycle. So overall, school readiness funding is dropping by 26% per the strategic plan. Happily though, with all the sustainability planning that the districts have been doing, services are not dropping by 26%, but rather they're holding almost steady in most strategies. So serving about the same number with health and developmental screenings, about 7% fewer children and parents in playgroups, about 29% more parents in early literacy and parent engagement. And the only place that we've lost services on par with our drop-in funds is in kindergarten readiness camps, which are the most resource-intensive program that we fund under school readiness, where about 25% fewer children are proposed to be served. So one of the biggest changes in this round of funding, which Julie was alluding to, is how the money is allocated to the district. So in the past, The funding to each district depended on which year they came into the program and how much available money there was. This time, the allotments are based on data. So instead of just cutting across the board all districts 26%, which would mirror the overall cut, we looked at the needs of each district based on student data. So 80% of the funding was allocated based on the number of children in low-income families, and that's as measured by eligibility for free and reduced price meals, who are in kindergarten in the district, and we used that as a proxy for the number of children of preschool age in the district. And we did this in a tiered system with a minimum allocation of $200,000 annually or $600,000 over the 3 years, which we posited was the minimum amount to staff and run programs. And that was for districts with up to 500 low-income children. And then for every 500 additional low-income children, we added $100,000 in allocation, so that with the districts that had the largest number of children in low-income families receiving a base amount of $1.1 million for the 3 years. And then the remaining 20% of funding was allocated based on an equity index, which is made up of 5 factors that are shown to be related to school readiness, which was then multiplied by total kindergarten enrollment. So this new funding allocation, it did mean that some districts are facing a much greater loss of school readiness funding than other districts. And we recognize that that is a painful hurdle for them. And it did mean that one district is getting an increase in funding. But because the allocation is based on data about the needs of the children in that district and it's tied to equity, we really felt that it was the right thing to do. As you see in the packet, we offered 7 strategies for school readiness. We required 3 of them that we see as essential to the program. And those are developmental playgroups, health and developmental screening, and then a focus on planning and systems integration. And then we allowed the districts to pick anywhere from 2 to 4 additional strategies. So some districts are proposing to deliver on 5 strategies, some on 6, and some on 7. I did want to point out on the chart on page 20 that I made an error in the total amount allocated to the strategies. And that bottom right-hand cell, it should read $9,076,793. And the remaining $157,000 is allocated to administrative expenses. And on that chart on page 20, you can see which districts are proposing delivering each strategy. And then in the synopses that follow, you can read in more detail about the specifics of each district's proposed program. Previously, we had a strategy that was called Enhanced Preschool, and it had become kind of a smorgasbord, and it was difficult to evaluate because there were a lot of different things going on under Enhanced Preschool. So after digging into it with the school readiness coordinators, I found that it was mostly programs and services that could fall under either parent and child social emotional support or early literacy support. And so we added those 2 strategies and eliminated Enhanced Preschool. Another thing that I wanted to point out to you is that you'll see in the synopses that the districts have included some of the things that they've learned throughout the pandemic about reaching out to families in their upcoming plans. So that includes using evidence-based programs that text or email parents quick, engaging tips on high-quality interactions with their children. So that learning from the last year is going into the future planning. And then finally, for many years, as you probably know, First 5 Sacramento paid for actual preschool spaces in the district. But as funding for preschool has expanded, we've slowly eliminated those investments And that's totally in line with what's happening across the state and many, many other county first five. So to just put some context there, in fiscal year 2015-16, we were paying for 651 preschool slots in 7 districts. And today we are paying for 59 slots in 2 districts. And then in the next round, we will not be paying for preschool slots at all. And last January, not the one that just finished yesterday, but last year, eligibility criteria for state preschool was expanded to include all 4-year-old children living in the catchment area of a high poverty school. So one district is, as opposed to doing it child by child. And so one district is planning to transition that current first 5 classroom to a state preschool classroom and serve very much the same population. And the other district is still in the planning phases and is exploring that option as well as what a partnership with Head Start might look like. So I am looking forward to working with the districts over this next round of funding and continuing to support families and schools as they lay the groundwork for successful kindergarten experiences and school success. And that concludes my presentation on this item. I welcome your questions and comments.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Lindsay?
Commissioner Cerna?
Yes, Commissioner Wood.
Another technical question. So on page 20, not only the total, but the Galt and Twin Rivers numbers don't match the numbers on page 21. And so I assume that's where the difference is. And I guess I want 2 things. One, I think you've told us what the total amounts are, but of these 2 charts, is it the page 21 that's the final numbers?
Yes, it is page 21. That's the final numbers.
And I assume we can correct the other ones, but in the rewrite or whatever.
Yeah, and actually yes, in the resolution it is correct, and in the recommendation on pages 17 and 18, those are the correct numbers as well.
We will definitely update to make sure the whole packet is correct before we post it back up to our website. Thank you.
Great. Carmen, do we have anyone signed up to speak on item 9?
We did not, but we did have a question that Julie answered, and I'd like to read it for everyone to hear it. Junior Goris asked, is projected low enrollment in the next 3 years also the reason for less funding? And Julie answered, we did not look at enrollment projections, but rather just at kindergarten enrollment at 2018-19 level. 2018-19 enrollment was one of the several data points used to determine the base level allocation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. If there's no further comment or questions by commissioners, I'd entertain a motion.
I so move approval.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Wirtz.
I will second.
Second by Commissioner Hassett. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassett.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia. Oh, he's gone. Sorry. Commissioner Turner Johnson.
Aye.
Gordon's recused. Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Is Dr. Cassiri back? Oh, there she is. Commissioner Cassiri.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wagstaff.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes.
Just one moment. I would like to vote as well. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Wirtz. I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, so Commissioner Gordon has to remain recused for the next item too, correct? Okay.
No, he was
Yeah.
Yes. He's
For number 11.
For 11.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
and I need to recuse myself
Okay.
as we work with them on this project.
Okay, very good.
We had a comment, I'm sorry, for item 11 from Christy Earhart from Robles School District. They would like to thank you for your continued support of our work with our earliest learners.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have other recusals that need to happen prior to us hearing this item?
That's all the recusals, but I just want to make one note since Beth is recusing herself and she's the alternate for Commissioner Sneeringer, who is out. This now leaves us with 6 voting members on this item.
Okay.
Which we're still good, but just needed to note that. And now we can move forward.
All right. So, Julie, do you want to kick this off?
Yes, sure. And thanks for hanging in there with us through the musical chairs of allocating funding. It takes a lot of work on the back end and on the day of the meeting too. So item number 11 is the third item in your packet today around contract approvals. And if approved today, then this will award contracts in the specific areas of developmental screening and referral services, and then 2 contracts under our efforts to reduce African American infant death. One being our perinatal conditions campaign, and the other being the Safe Sleep Education campaign. So for these, we did have a more traditional RFP process. So all of the proposals were submitted by the deadline and included all of the requirements of the RFP, and then went through a multi-step process. So we looked at their financial solvency background, and then staff conducted an internal review of each proposal to ensure that they met the requirements and intentions of the RFP. And then we created a tool that included questions reflecting the required proposal narrative of the RFP and a detailed scoring rubric. So proposals that were reviewed internally could receive up to 50 points. Those points were then added to the points allocated by the review panels, which were up to 150 points. The external review panels consisted of advisory committee members, various content experts, and even community connections grantee leaders who read and scored each proposal individually. And they also had a detailed scoring rubric that mirrored sort of the core questions that were laid out in the RFP itself. So reviewers met via Zoom to discuss and share scores, talk about the proposals, and they did have the opportunity to change scores if they would like to on any one of the items. And so cumulative between their 150 points and then the 50 points for the internal review, a total score of 200 points was possible. So the funding recommendations were posted on our website on January 4th, and we did not receive any letters protest. So you can see in your packet a synopsis of each of the program's proposed services, and those are attachments 1 through 3. And again, as I stated in the last one, this is what they were proposed to provide, but your approval today allows us the opportunity to negotiate the contract scopes of work and budgets. We are recommending approval to fund Sacramento County Office of Education for $1,020,000 to implement Help Me Grow. Additionally, a contract with Child Abuse Prevention Council of Sacramento for $572,000 to continue coordination of the Infant Safe Sleep Education campaign, and a contract with Her Health First for $450,000 to implement a perinatal education campaign. And these amounts are included in the approved spending plan and will be incorporated into the budgets for the fiscal years of 3 fiscal years of the 2021-24 strategic plan period. And I'm happy to answer any questions about those.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any questions for our executive director? All right, seeing none.
Commissioner Cerna, I have my hand up, I think.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question about the third item, the improving perinatal conditions and decreasing infant deaths through the media campaign. I was curious. I mean, I guess the answer might be because this is who applied, but I don't understand why the Center for Community Health and Wellbeing, Her Health First, is the applicant for a media campaign when they are generally, a community provider of services. I see they have the subcontractor of a media company, but I don't understand what that, whether that's how the committees looked at that and whether that's was an appropriate approach to doing a media campaign. And I want to also just say that I think a lot of these proposals have been based also on the data that we have around the evaluation showing some effectiveness of various of these components. But anyway, this one, I didn't understand the application.
Okay, excellent question. And I think Linda Fong-Samara was on, and I don't see her on anymore, but we should allow her to come back in case I don't do this justice. But a large piece of Her Health First contract, their proposal, was actually subcontract to RSE, who is our current provider. It's just Her Health First taking the lead and helping with many of the things. So it's kind of like a flip of the way the contract is currently, where we fund RSE and they had a subcontract with Her Health First to do listening sessions and testing the messages with focus groups in the community and even some design concept building. This time Her Health First applied, is subcontracting with RSE for the media pieces of it, but they are holding ultimate responsibility for gathering that community input and making sure that the women's voice is heard in the campaign. And I can let Linda, if I missed anything, or feel free.
Hi, everyone. Julie, I think you've covered it well. It's still a strong partnership between agencies. We also had a reduction in funding in this area. So this was a way to really maximize the dollars around this effort. But most importantly, I think it's really that opportunity to have quick access to community voice and community perspective, which is so critical to make sure that the campaign is culturally responsive. So I see it as Her Health First brings that perspective and access to that community voice, and really ensuring that we have boots on the ground for the campaign and are really able to collect those stories that will resonate with the community. And RSC and XTG Media are there to also really lift up those stories, but provide some more of the technical aspects, including things like media buys and public relations and work on the website. But again, our partners at Her Health First would be really critical in making sure that the content is culturally responsive. So it definitely is, it was very clear that it was a partnership in the proposal.
And then additionally, I just want to note too that Shannon Shaw is in the queue to speak, so she might want to be prepared to shed a little more light on this question.
If I could just add the other part of my question, one of the concerns I think I've had is that these media campaigns are sort of on again and off again and on again. So I'm wondering if in this proposal there's a way to have some continuity between the unequal births campaign and not have a gap of 6 or 9 or 12 months between messages in our community, which I would think needs to be continuously there, because different women get pregnant at different times and different people are engaged in the concerns around these issues. So I'm wondering whether this proposal really integrates an ongoing, consistent educational and media message to the community?
This iteration of the campaign moving forward will have dual campaigns going at the same time. So it is intended to be a dual target audience, with Sac Healthy Baby being focused on the African American community and getting moms connected to the services, and also continue on Equal Birth to reach the broader community around the issue of disparities and the root causes of the disparities. In terms of there being some gaps in seeing media on the community, part of that is the cost of media. We have found that social media has been really effective, and so we'll be further pursuing that in the next iteration of the campaigns, and in some ways that could be a little bit more cost effective, but we'll definitely keep those comments in mind as we negotiate the contract.
Okay, any other questions before we hear from speakers? All right, seeing none. Carmen?
We do have 3 speakers. The first one will be Dr. Natalie Woods Andrews. You can unmute yourself now.
Thank you so much, Chair Cerna and commissioners. Again, on behalf of the Sacramento County Office of Education, I again want to just express my appreciation again to your ongoing commitment in this area of developmental screenings for young children, and also a centralized referral system in Sacramento County. SCOE is just honored to continue to build up on the work that we've been able to begin with the Help Me Grow model here in Sacramento County, and are certainly excited about the return on investment that we've been able to provide utilizing this model. SCOE has used this Help Me Grow infrastructure and other opportunities here in Sacramento County to just align with the state and national work, which has positioned us to enhance our work in this particular area. And just want to highlight a few different things that we've been able to do with the funds and that we will continue to build upon. One is that we have been able to support our local school districts as they are rolling out their school readiness efforts with the implementation of an online system for ages and stages questionnaire to support children's development. And then also Christine Smith, who is an early learning department director at SCOE. She was able to participate as one of 3 Help Me Grow National Innovation Advisors called upon to provide some guidance and technical assistance to other Help Me Grow affiliates. And so we are really proud to be able to step in at a national level. But what that did is it resulted in our opportunity to be able to provide some emergency supplies here in Sacramento County. So we were able to leverage that opportunity to provide and distribute over 2,000 packs of diapers and then 200 cans of formula right here in Sacramento County. So again, using it as an opportunity to leverage. And then we were able to engage in the Surgeon General's ACEs Aware initiative through a communications grant. And also, as Julie mentioned earlier today, just last week, we received notification that we received the ACEs Aware Network of Care Implementation Grant, and that is $3 million, which we will be able to launch in Sacramento County, a county-wide ACEs Aware Trauma Informed Network of Care. And this will engage a cross-sector of collaborative individuals to focus on reducing the impact of ACEs here in Sacramento County. So we're really pleased with that. It's also an opportunity to connect, make that connection with Medi-Cal and then other health providers in our community. And so we are really pleased that we're able to just be in alignment with Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris's roadmap for resilience, but also exciting to be able to partner with River City Medical Group to be able to work with that group as the co-lead for our health community to ensure that we're making those solid connections. And then also being able to engage in strong Help Me Grow collaborative partnerships within the community, but also with Black Child Legacy Campaign, and then also some interagency department work. So these pieces are absolutely foundational to the work that we have been able to build upon with your initial investment with Help Me Grow. So just want to thank you again for prioritizing this funding for Sacramento County. We are so honored and so pleased to partner with you and utilize the funds that you have entrusted in us in a way that we would think you would be pleased. So thank you again.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Shannon Shaw. You may unmute yourself.
Right. Hello. I'm Shannon Shaw, Executive Director of Her Health First. I'd first like to thank First 5 Sacramento for the recommendation and the Commission for the anticipated approval of the funding to lead the perinatal conditions education campaign. And we cannot overstate enough the critical need for ongoing awareness and education on the disproportionate infant and maternal mortality rates in the African American community, as well as how critical it is to center Black and Brown voices at every stage of campaign development and execution. And so over some very thorough and in-depth conversations with RSC, we came to the decision together that it would be best, as we continue to build on the successes of the unequal birth campaign and SAC Healthy Baby, that the messenger, needs to be those who are from the communities that we are, seeking to reach, also the communities that we are speaking about. We reflect these communities, we respect them, and leveraging our expertise in perinatal conditions, as well as our trusted reputation with the African American community, is going to make us very successful in this. And again, just to Steve Wirt's point, that we are not reinventing the wheel with this campaign, but just seeking to continue to build on the existing work that RSC and First 5 has so successfully done. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Shannon.
And the last speaker signed up is Stephanie Biegler. You may unmute yourself.
Too many buttons to press. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Sorry. Good afternoon, Commissioner Chair Cerna and members of the First 5 Commission. I'm Stephanie Biegler with the Child Abuse Prevention Council of Sacramento, and we would like to extend our sincere appreciation on behalf of our Safe Sleep Baby partners for your continued support of our county's Infant Safe Sleep education campaign. Safe Sleep Baby, as our county campaign is affectionately known, has been well received by pregnant and new parents, especially when you look at and consider the significant decrease in infant sleep-related deaths over the last 7 years. We look forward to continuing to partner with First 5 Sacramento in this important work. And one of the key components, if approved, will be to, once again, on the theme of community voice and perspective, re-engage African-American pregnant and new moms to make certain that the campaign message remains or is changed to be culturally relevant and does motivate behavior that encourages safe sleep practices. So thank you so very much again for your support of our efforts.
Thank you.
We do not have any other speakers.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions from commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Also moved.
I think Commissioner Turner Johnson beat you to the punch.
That's fine.
I'll take that as a second, Commissioner Wirtz. All right, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassett. Oh, sorry, she's out. Where am I? Commissioner Gordon. He's recused. I'm all off today. Okay, Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
And Commissioner Casirier.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wagstaff.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Okay, we are good. Motion passes. Thank you.
Oh, did you call Commissioner Turner Johnson?
No. I messed that one up too. Commissioner Turner Johnson.
Hi.
Very good.
Hi, thank you.
Good for the record. All right.
Whew.
All right, next item, please.
Ready for almost last one. Item number 12, presentation, First Five Sacramento fiscal year 1920 annual evaluation report.
Great. And Steph, you're off the hook. There's no voting required on it. Oh my goodness.
No.
I know.
Oh, can we, before you get started, Julie, can we have the commissioners rejoin that recused? There's Mr.
Yeah.
Gordon.
They should be able to hear us because they've probably been watching, but just
all right, I see them back.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. So we're super excited about this big last item on the agenda. And this is our annual report findings from 1920 and 1819 rather. No, 1920. Yes, 1920. And as you know, we usually bring forward to you the report to First Five California, which is really just a lot of tally numbers about how many folks we served and what kinds of services we provided, and some demographics, but it really doesn't tell the story of the impact that our programs have had. And so Jordan Catty is here today to join us, and she's going to walk you through a brief PowerPoint presentation that highlights some of those impacts for children and families as a result of our investments last fiscal year.
Yes, thank you so much, Julie. Like she said, I am Jordan Catty, and I am a project manager with Applied Survey Research, who is First Five Sacramento's external evaluator. So I will be sharing my screen today to present to you the outcomes of the 2019-20 report. So let me just take a second here and share my screen. Okay. So first, I'd love to go over just what the goals of the evaluation were. We use a results-based accountability format, which really encompasses the questions of how much did we do? So those are more like frequency number counts. How well did we do it? So what were the actual validity of what we did, and did it make an impact? Is anybody better off? So did anyone result from the better based upon the services that First Five provided? And with the overall goal of changing community-wide indicators. And when I present to you community-wide indicators today, it's not necessarily to say that First Five Sacramento had a direct cause in reducing negative numbers or increasing positive numbers, but we do hope that our efforts significantly contributed to that. Another reason that I'm here today is to celebrate successes, so to point out the areas in which First Five Sacramento's evaluation was especially strong, and then also notice and pinpoint areas for which we can course correct to be able to better improve upon those areas. So this is a strategic hierarchy that you should be relatively familiar with. We have had this for the past 3 years. This will be the last year that you see it though, because with our strategic plan that we created last year, that will be going into play for the 21-22 year beginning in July. So for the current strategic hierarchy, there are 3 overarching categories: health, early care and development, as well as empowered families. And all of the services that First Five funds fit into at least one or more of these categories. Now, to actually show you some data, here is information about the reach of First Five during 1920. They served approximately 21,926 caregivers or parents. 17,765 children, and 648 providers. I would like to point out, though, that there are services that reach up to thousands more people that are not currently counted in this number. That could include people who were impacted by things like the media campaign, people who viewed the billboards, or people who saw the social media ads that we can't account for, but we do know that these numbers actually are lowballing how many people were impacted by First Five Sacramento. Just to show you a breakdown of the ethnicity of First Five clients, 52% of clients identified as either Latino or African American. This is higher than the countywide rate, which is 45%. So you can see we are serving more of the minority families than in Sacramento County as a whole. I also want to make sure to note, before we get too far into the presentation, about COVID-19 and its impact. So as you know, a global pandemic hit the US really hard in March. So most programs were forced to at least pause their typical service delivery and regroup to figure out how they can best and safely serve families. So in order to do that, many programs created completely new services or launched online virtual services that they did not have in the past. Many provided supplies that were needed for families, things that you could not pick up at the grocery store, things like antibacterial wipes or PPE. And then additionally, recreated some of their safety measures to conform to the new COVID-19 guidelines to make sure that everyone remained safe. And so I just want you to keep that in mind as I continue presenting about the numbers, because most of these programs were pretty heavily impacted. So some of the milestones or RBAs are no longer applicable. For example, for a lot of programs, we do not have post data after they left the program, because programs ended very early and we couldn't receive that data in time. So to start off with the first result area, I have given you the RAACD presentation earlier in December, I guess, of 2020. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these results, as you have already heard them. But just as a relatively quick overview, there were 4 major prongs of the RAACD initiative. The Pregnancy Peer Support Program, who worked one-on-one with Black pregnant mothers. Of those 180 women, and 80% of the babies were born at a healthy weight and age. The Infant Safe Sleep campaign, also referred to as Safe Sleep Baby, trained almost 1,000 caregivers and 339 professionals on safe sleep practices. In addition, they distributed almost 500 cribs to those who were in need of a safe place to sleep their baby. The public education campaign, as we just discussed a little bit ago, launched the Unequal Birth campaign. So this included radio ads, social media ads, as well as billboards. And then family resource centers, who really aim to reduce child abuse and neglect, served almost 4,000 adults and over 2,000 children with a myriad of services, including home visitation, parenting ed, crisis intervention, and enhanced core services. Importantly, of the 101 births in the Pregnancy Peer Support Program, there were 0 stillbirths and 0 perinatal infant deaths. So that is something to really celebrate in this community, who may be high risk in general based upon past data. Overall, for African Americans in the county, there was a 19% decrease from the rolling average years of 2012-14 to 2016-18, which is the most current data. Additionally, African American infant sleep-related deaths decreased by 51% and had a 58% decrease in disparity, as well as the extremely exciting result area finding that child abuse and neglect homicides had 100% decrease in their child deaths. So from 2012-14, the rate for African Americans was 17.9. In 2016 to 2018, that rate was 0. So in years 2016, 2017, and 2018, African Americans had 0 CAN homicides. So that's something to be very celebrated and very excited about. Moving on to breastfeeding. So there were 2 different WIC programs that were funded, Community Resource Project WIC, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services WIC. These numbers show those 2 WIC programs added together. So together they reached 2,743 mothers. And as you can see, WIC clients were much more likely to be exclusively breastfeeding at 6 months. This is higher than the statewide average and the Healthy People 2020 goal. Moving on to dental care. So in 2018-19, First Five Sacramento changed their funding to begin funding Early Smiles. And this year in 1920, Early Smiles provided dental screenings to 7,310 children and fluoride varnish to 5,678 children. And of those children, about a quarter of them received referrals because of their dental needs. So you can see that 20% needed non-urgent dental care and 2% had urgent needs for dental care. Moving into quality early care, this is the beginning of the second priority area. So the first priority area was health. This one is early care and development. First, I'd like to talk to you about Child Action. So Child Action provides education and technical assistance to early educators to help increase the quality of their classrooms and of their teachings. And they impacted 61 childcare programs and almost double that the amount of teachers that they impacted. The Preschool Bridging Model Plus program, which is also referred to as PBM Plus, it provides similar support to Child Action, but provides that support to privately funded early care and education providers, and in addition provides screenings for children. So of the 621 children screened with the ASQ, the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which measures for developmental delays, 6% of those children were referred to get further testing. And the other one I'd like to call your attention to is those children who were screened for hearing. 8% were referred on for further testing because of a non-typical result. And before I get off of the quality early care, I just wanted to read to you a quote from a mother whose child, both of these mother and child's names have been changed to protect privacy, but she said, "Nova's energy level is something that I have never seen before. After working with my family child care providers and PBM Plus staff, I feel better now. I can do this." So this shows how not only PBM Plus can impact the child's teacher, but it can also impact the child's parent as well in kind of a collaborative process. Moving on to the next result, which is children being ready for kindergarten. So this result is supported by the School Readiness Initiative implemented by 9 school districts. Importantly, what I'd like to point out were the 59 preschool slots that were funded, as Lindsay had mentioned earlier, playgroups providing opportunities for 849 children, and then the staggering almost 5,000 screenings that school districts conducted on children. In addition, in this area is Help Me Grow. Just to give a couple updates about Help Me Grow 888 calls were received to the call line, and almost 400 children were screened through Help Me Grow with First 5 Sacramento funding. In addition, 2 special studies were conducted in this year. They were both on school readiness processes. The first one was on family engagement processes, and the second one was on the developmental screener process. Through these special studies, we were able to really hone in on what the best practices are and to get the school readiness coordinators talking and understanding what other sites are doing to have ideas of how they could all improve. In addition, there was a standardized developmental protocol developed that was created because all 9 school districts had a different way of conducting their developmental screeners. And some had more success than others, meaning that some had better return rates, better explanations to parents, et cetera, et cetera. So because of that, a developmental protocol was developed so that they could follow that in order to have the most valid data possible. Okay, now to look at families connected to their communities, I wanted to highlight 2 programs. The first is 211. 211 helped connect 6,516 parents to community resources. And then of those, 53% said they received services and almost 80 would recommend them to family and friends. As well as community connections groups, there were 942 families that were served through 11 of the CCG groups. And just as a couple highlights, almost 100% of participants said they felt more connected or bonded with their child because of participation in these groups. And there were also some stellar results around staying in touch with other members, so building up social bonds, learning about resources, as well as making new friends. In the area of empowered families, the next result is effective parenting. So Birth and Beyond reached 3,901 parents and caregivers with multiple services geared toward families with young children, enhanced core, parent education, home visiting, and crisis intervention. For home visitation, what you're looking at in the graph is before they began home visitation and after they finished home visitation, they took the AAPI, which is it's an assessment that evaluates their risk for child maltreatment. And in the case of the AAPI, higher scores mean that there is less risk for child maltreatment. So you can see that they're sorted into groups, a treatment group, an intervention group, and a prevention group based upon their likelihood to commit child maltreatment at the beginning of home visitation. And then after they finish the program, they take the AAPI assessment again. And for all the groups, there were increases, but for the treatment group and the prevention group, these increases in score were statistically significant. So it shows that home visitation is impacting parents and decreasing their likelihood to mistreat their children. So secondly, we also look at CPS allegations and referrals after participation in the Birth and Beyond home visitation program. So this graph, what you are looking at are the overall is children who came in to Birth and Beyond services with a substantiated allegation from Child Protective Services. And we measured from the day that they started Birth and Beyond home visitation to 1 year after. And we looked at if they had any more allegations, substantiated allegations within that year's time. And this is done through a partnership with Child Protective Services, who provide us We provide them the list of home visitation children and the dates of their enrollment, and they provide us with a de-identified file of the children who did have another allegation. So for this group, you can understand that this is kind of a high-risk group because they're coming into home visitation with already a substantiated allegation from CPS. And I have it split out here by dosage level, but what I'd really like to draw your attention to is the all bar, which is 3%. We have a countywide comparison for the County of Sacramento, ages 0 to 5, having another substantiated allegation in 12 months, and that number countywide is 11%. So you can see that Birth and Beyond, even though they come in with an allegation, they're actually having a second allegation at a much lower rate than just the general countywide comparison. Additionally, this is looking at the entire population. So what I had just talked about was the population that came in with a substantiated referral. Not everybody comes into the home visitation program with a substantiated referral. So this is looking at everybody who came into the home visitation program within a certain time frame so that they could have 12 months of measurement after they began the program. So once again, I have it split out by dosage, but I'd like to draw your attention to the all, which also is 3%. So that means that from coming into Birth and Beyond programming till 12 months after that start date, 3% had a substantiated allegation. Now, this is higher than the Sacramento county-wide percentage of people who have allegations. Just in general, what percentage of the population has a substantiated allegation for the ages of 0 to 5 is 1%. So Birth and Beyond is higher than that. However, the reason why we're still excited about this number and think it's very, very positive is the fact that 46% of the children in the Birth and Beyond home visitation program had some prior CPS involvement. So they hadn't come into the program with a substantiated allegation, but sometime in the past 5 years, they had had some sort of involvement with the system. And so that would make this the Birth and Beyond population a much more high risk sample than just the Sacramento County population as a whole. So even though Birth and Beyond's percentage is higher than the countywide, we still are celebrating this as something to be proud of, the fact that it is so low, even though there is a high risk population at Birth and Beyond, the home visitation program. In addition to Birth and Beyond, the other Empowered Families initiative is the Crisis Nursery. The Crisis Nursery has 2 locations, one in North Sacramento and one in South Sacramento, which offer emergency and overnight respite care for children whose parents are in crisis or in distress. And the families are provided case management or referrals to different services or resources in order to help families stabilize their situation. So in the past year, the Sacramento Crisis Nursery provided emergency childcare to almost 500 children in 322 families. And most commonly, the reason that they were there were parental issues of employment, parental distress, medical issues. 42% completed a case management plan. And the most frequent referrals were for basic needs such as housing, food or clothing, employment, breastfeeding, family resource centers. And parents were overall highly satisfied with the Crisis Nursery program, with 99% saying that because of Crisis Nursery, they felt that they're better able to solve crisis situations as they may arrive. And then 96% saying that having that crisis nursery support did reduce their stress level. And finally, goals for the future. So First Five Sacramento is entering into a new year of contracting and the strategic plan. So this is a great time to further fine tune programming with COVID in mind, keeping to further virtual programming, and then also working on funding decisions, working on which programs to fund, as you have had some experience listening to today. Also exploring costs of programs and outcomes to figure out return on investments to be able to invest the most in programs that seem to be making the biggest impact. And then finally, continuing to invest in systems change and advocacy work, as changing the entire system sometimes can produce even bigger results than working individually. So First Five Sacramento has a great program here that really runs the full gambit of providing one-on-one support all the way up to systems change support. So that is the presentation that I have for you today. I am happy to take any questions or comments.
Great, thank you, Jordan. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Turner Johnson, then Commissioner Wirtz.
Hi, thank you, first of all, for a wonderful presentation, which was really fun to look at in advance. Just one thing I wanted to mention, I think it's on page 32 under the dental initiative. There's a comment that there were more children this time with this, this recap now, that had not gotten intervention. And it was stated that this may well be that there were far more children screened for dental than in the past. So because we're always concerned about dental being the one that is of extreme worry, because there just doesn't ever seem to be the level of protection and intervention that we want. Can I just ask if you can decouple that there seem to be more and yet, so, can you comment on that?
Yes. So I believe you're talking about figure 26, which is the county-wide data about those children with untreated decay. And is that correct?
Well, there was also some script about it stating, yeah, exactly.
Yep. So this was actually an indicator that caused us great pause because there was such a large increase in 2019-20 as compared to 18-19. So we have reached out, and I can let Julie speak on this also. We did reach out to our partners with dealing with Sacramento County Dental, and they said that they had not yet found out about this large increase. And so we have ran it by our analysts, and everyone's getting the same numbers, just in case you were worried about validity or consistency. But to answer your question about why there's that giant increase, it could be that there were more children tested. However, it does not delineate where those children were that they were tested. So it doesn't let us know if they were in much more high risk areas where untreated decay may be more common. But unfortunately, we just don't know the full answer to that question. And I'm really interested to look next year to see, is this an anomaly of a year, or is this starting some sort of trend? So I hope that answers your question.
It does, in short. I think that what I'd like to just say or suggest is that although I wasn't really concerned about validity. I had the feeling that the numbers were correct. Obviously the work that you've all done in the past is very fine. So I wasn't really asking that. I really felt like it may well be that there were either more tested and screened, but then either there wasn't the same follow-up that we try to make sure we do with every family and child that has that issue. or there weren't enough dentists, which is often the case, that will accept those particular children. I would only like to suggest that maybe with waiting a whole nother year, that somehow we could maybe get some more answers, because there's children out there that need service, and we all know the kind of impact this has on cognition and learning and overall health. And I hate to think that we wait a year to find out a little more information, that's all. If there's some way of doing that, I know you're not contracted to do a whole nother evaluation right now, but Julie, maybe there's something you could suggest about that. And thank you.
We work closely with our public health department and their dental programs. So this was something, as soon as we saw this, we called them, we're like, hey, what's going on? They also didn't have an answer to this yet. So I agree. And it's good that you picked up on that. And it reminds us, not next year, but like next month, let's follow up with them and see what we can find out about this particular.
Yeah, it literally leapt off the pages at me.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it's worthy of getting some more information before waiting that long.
Agreed.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Commissioner Wirtz.
Yes, thank you. The first thing I want to say is that I want to thank Jordan and the Applied Survey Research team and the First Five Commission staff, as well as all the providers, first of all, for the provision of services, but then the provision of the data that's incorporated in this. And the evaluation committee spent some good time working together as a team to look at these numbers. And I want to highlight that the report is something like 157 pages long. And Jordan, I think you did an excellent job of summarizing many of the highlights in that presentation. So I want to give you kudos for that. But there is so much in there of both successes and some challenges that we need to be aware of in here. And I think the evaluation data can truly continue to inform the process here. So I'm just going to just mention that even though African-American infant mortality was much lower, we did see an uptick there, and it's still way too high. However, no infant deaths occurred during the time that we have data for those who receive services. And again, just to highlight that safe sleep deaths were down 51%. That's an amazing success. However, there's still a problem with the perinatal condition line. So I'm just highlighting that we need to look at that. And again, you've done Applied Survey Research has done some further analyses where you use your logistic regressions and regression modeling. And again, I would just highlight that the most significant variable across your analyses continues to be women who are unemployed but looking for work, namely that's just the measure we have, but it's an indicator of underlying social. That gets back to our approach to sustainability and to systems and social determinants of health. So I just want to say that our data supports that notion that we need to focus also on social determinants that impact education, that impact the economic environment. We just have to highlight something that I hadn't seen before, that 47% of mothers exclusively breastfeeding at 6 months, that's nearly twice the state average. That is a major success. I mean, some of you know, I've worked on promoting breastfeeding for 20, 30 years, and that kind of impact in our community is just really dramatic. But I too saw the dental decay issue as a flag, so I'm glad that was mentioned. But I also wanted to mention that the fluoridation expanded to now 2/3 of children in Sacramento County are potentially receiving fluoridated water. And the special studies, I think what I wanted to mention about that is that those have been used for program improvement, quality improvement efforts. So that's a really kudos to the evaluation efforts. Then finally, I wanted to highlight not only that slide 16, that this is the most clear indication that birth and beyond is affecting the high-risk populations that it's intended to. when we look at recurrence of substantiated child maltreatment, to see these results, and I know there's, the methodology I believe was improved. It was different, but it was improved. And the partnership with CPS and gathering this data makes me feel quite comfortable that this result is also phenomenal. 3% versus 11%. So if kids who have substantiated child maltreatment, if they don't go into birth and beyond, they're almost three times more likely to have a recurring case when you compare 3% to 11%. So that's profound. But I do want to highlight, in terms of disparities, that African-American rate of substantiated maltreatment was 33.7 per 100,000, which is 3 times higher than the overall state rate. So we still have some problems in how the system is identifying and to what degree poverty and economic stresses are the underlying root causes for some of this. And then finally, I will just say that for the evaluations committee, we are going to continue to try to, based on the racial equity and social justice resolution, we will be trying to, on the committee, to continue monitor and look at these issues from an equity point of view. So again, kudos to the presentations, kudos to the underlying efforts of services and evaluation that went into the evaluation report. I think it's really phenomenal. And I urge you all to get through as much of the 170 pages or 157 pages as you can. So thank you for great work.
Thank you so much, Steve. And I'd also like to just thank the commissioners in general, as well as the evaluation team and the evaluation committee at First Five, as well as all of the program managers who really work hard to make sure that all of their programs are submitting accurate and timely data. So I really appreciate it. It's a team effort.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. And again, great job. You always seem to always have the best part of our meetings, delivering all the great news. So
I am lucky.
keep that up. All right. Okay. I think we are now on to commission member comments. Any comments from commissioners? Not seeing any hands. All right. Well, this has been a full meeting. I want to express my appreciation to everyone for their time this afternoon, and look forward to our next meeting. So if we have no further business, we stand adjourned.
Thank you all. Have a great week.
See you guys. Stay safe.